G'day mates, in today's video I want to kick off talking about whatever happened today in the DreamHack Grand Finals. We had Vino and Pink's PCs being stolen overnight. We had players playing from home, the code getting leaked so badly they had to redo the entire event, and players like Mr. Savage went and got blow up mattresses so they could go to sleep in between the queue times. I want to talk about how the tournament ended up. We had Giannis absolutely dominate, winning by over 70 points. I also want to talk at the end of today's video about how the chapter 4 map has potentially just been leaked, and it looks like it potentially isn't as new of a map as what we wanted, and it's going to have major parts of previous chapters, especially the chapter 3 map. So, a lot to talk about. Let's just jump into it. Let's kick off talking about what happened with DreamHack today. And I was talking in yesterday's video about how much better these qualifiers were running in Sweden compared to back in DreamHack Atlanta, but unfortunately it went the reverse for the finals. So despite the fact the qualifiers ran really smoothly, the finals were a different story. Before I even get into talking about how Giannis won and how insane his performance was, I need to talk about what led up to it, because especially this taking place at like 2 in the morning for most of NA and most of the major regions around the world, a lot of you guys missed it. So the morning kicked off before games even began with the drama. We had Vino and Pink's PCs being stolen overnight. They ended up having to find other PCs to play on. We had Vino having to play on Anas's PC, and then we had Pink playing on Archie's PCs. You're probably wondering what happened. How did their PCs get stolen? Well, apparently the area of the DreamHack that they were in, the Fortnite area, had cameras, but apparently according to Vino, and this again is just rumored, the cameras didn't work. And I know you're probably thinking, man, is Vino gonna sue them? Is Pink gonna sue them? They ended up being DreamHack's computers. They rented the computers from DreamHack and they were just taken. But even though they were able to play on another PC, it still begs the question, how could players' gear just be stolen? Apparently, according to a lot of people at DreamHack Sweden, there just wasn't any real security overnight. We had ZAndy tweeting out that someone came and used his PC overnight. Clearly, they said there was food around, his keyboard had been moved. Firstly, obviously some of this blame goes to pros. They could have easily taken their stuff with them, their peripherals, their PCs. They could have at least put passwords on their PCs, but DreamHack's own rental PCs being stolen, it's kind of, you know, I don't say what they deserve, but what is going on? How can people just walk into major areas of players' gear and either use it or just steal it? Like, I know you're probably thinking, like, how is that not, you know, obvious that someone's just walking around with a PC, but people come and go carrying PCs out of DreamHack all the time. It's why DreamHack Atlanta, there were stickers that you put on your gear to show it's yours, and they could check that to make sure it matches your identification. A lot of players say you could switch these stickers, but either way, that is how day one started. Then we also found out information, like I talked about in yesterday's video, the multiple players were playing from home. Now, this fell into 2 different categories. There was players playing from home who actually qualified yesterday. So what that means is they had someone at the event go up and register saying it was them, and then they were logged in and they could just play from home normally. So these players actually qualified into grand finals playing from home. The other issue was, unfortunately, the codes were being leaked out, so there were other players who were playing from home but didn't even qualify for the grand finals. Game 1 was voided after the players were clearly in the lobby that shouldn't be, but then game 2 still went ahead despite these players playing from home. So the first game of the day, which counted, by the way, had multiple players who weren't even at the LAN event. Now, to fix all of this, they decided they would go around to each player's PC and have the admins manually enter in the code. This ran into a very big issue because a lot of the players, being a European event, don't speak English, or their keyboards aren't inputted to be English. So they couldn't put the code in because it required English lettering, which was just a whole nother headache altogether as well. Eventually, Boop stepped up. Boop, the absolute GOAT, as you guys know. Coach Boop makes a bunch of content, runs Noble and EU. Pretty much the reason why EU has the practice it has these days. Stepped up because he was at the event, got the tournament running, and then everything was smooth sailing from then. But in all the amount of time this took, we were 3 hours into the event, 3 hours into the tournament, and we'd only played 1 game, which led Mr. Savage to very seriously buying a blow-up mattress off someone and taking naps between games. Now, I know you're thinking, after all of this, why did this happen compared to last DreamHack Sweden? It's because the event is not in the compete tab, and it looks like we finally got to the bottom today of why the event is not in the compete tab. I heard this from multiple players today saying they've heard this from Epic staff or at the events they've been at recently. It's because Epic took a break for Thanksgiving, crashing. They weren't able to then have the compete tab running, so they didn't have the staff to run it. Now, that is coming from multiple pros, but I cannot obviously verify that from any public information from Epic. While a lot of people are frustrated by that, I get it. Workers need to take breaks. I would love it if Epic just hired more staff for their team. I don't think that's too much to ask, because this was $200,000 of events between Atlanta and now Sweden that could have ran so much better. Whole bunch of pros spent their hard-earned money, you know, getting tickets, buying plane tickets, buying hotels, taking their PCs. I feel like it's owed to them to at least be in the compete tab. But the silver lining, the positive here, is the fact that means that I hope, if that is to be believed, if that is correct, DreamHacks in the future will be in the compete tab. And if DreamHack is in the compete tab, it will be a phenomenal event like the last DreamHack Sweden. None of these issues. We get to focus on who wins. Kami versus Seti create some of those insane moments we all know and love, and DreamHack can go back to being one of my favorite parts of every season, because after these last two events, it's looking a little bit rough. Now, let's talk about how the event did end up going, because again, I want to give credit where credit is due. We had Giannis have an insane performance, winning the tournament on 337 points, over 70 points clear of second place. Remember, victory royales were worth 65 points, so an absolutely ridiculous performance from him. But you'll notice if you look at this top 5, everything was coming up Germany. It's a full German top 5. We had Giannis in first, Rezon in second, Cheatin in third, Vidil in fourth, and Frey in fifth. An absolutely insane performance from the Germans. I like to point out, I know the event was a little bit scuffed, but I do hear a lot of slander on the German and French players saying that, you know, they only place because of their ping. They're only insane at solos because they can take every wall. Well, when the whole lobby was on equal ping, Germany came first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. An insane performance from them. We had Thomas HD in sixth. We had Podesai, Combek, Deceptos, and then Robin. Everyone did make money all the way down the top 100. I'm not going to run through the whole leaderboard. We had a good placing from Queasy though. We had DKS and Moneymaker, so two of the controller goats on EU. I love seeing controller players placing on EU, because we're still yet to this day to have a single controller player on EU win an FNCS, which is just insane. Hen had a big performance. Kami, our reigning FNCS champions, coming just inside top 20. Seti in 23rd, who obviously won the most recent DreamHack Sweden, unfortunately couldn't go back to back. We had Mr. Savage in 35th. Him and iDrop were just going at it almost every game at Logjam. There is absolutely no room to say that Savage and iDrop are teaming or any form of collusion. They were fighting each other ridiculously. I know you're probably thinking, where is Vino? Vino did come in 57th. He made a tweet just saying, look, it was just an awful tournament for him. Bad luck. The PC being stolen. He just had an awful morning. It just really threw him off, and he didn't have a good tournament. Again, I don't think anyone's going to take into question whether Vino is still one of the best players right now. He is an absolute demon. And I will point out though, in 100th place, there was one player, I still don't know who this is, who played the first game when the code was given out online. As soon as you had to verify who you were in person, could no longer play the remaining 6 games. So I know that is clearly one player who was playing from home, but the tweets and the events I was talking about in yesterday's video, the reason why I blurred out that player's name is because, like I said, I couldn't 100% verify whether that player was playing from home. I wanted to assume that Floki's, Yandy, and the pros had done some research, but it looks like 99 of the players were playing in the finals today and verified who they were in person. So unless something went wrong there and they somehow got the code again from home, it looks like there ended up being only one pro who was truly playing from home. So what happened with all the leakers today, and why are we talking about how the chapter 4 map might actually still be very similar to the chapter 3 map? Obviously, every single chapter we get an entirely brand new map, and a lot of people are excited for that with chapter 4. There is now evidence coming out that while we will get a new map, a lot of it will be different pieces from the chapter 3 island. We had TweeBR tweet this out, and a lot of this is coming from the fact that some leakers today were able to get access to the new event files and pull some audio from it, where we heard different voice lines and different pieces of information to back this up. We also got information from Fortnite News again that chapter 4 season 1 will be called Reforged. We didn't get this backed up with any evidence, but it makes sense. We have the event being called Fracture. If you've been following the storyline, it is building up to the fact that we are going to be having a fracturing of the world, and then we are going to have different pieces on the new island. So a lot of people are kind of theorizing that we're going to have different parts of the chapter 1, chapter 2, and chapter 3 maps all on the chapter 4 map. This has led to a whole bunch of concept pieces like this that would be honestly pretty cool. I myself personally am hoping for what feels like a pretty fresh map. I've always been arguing what I would love to kind of hit that nostalgia point but still have cool new content is have one POI on the map like the old block that every single week cycles between an old POI. One week it's Boney Burbs, and then it's Risky Reels, and then maybe it's Coney Crossroads from this chapter. They could still hit that whole fracturing thing. It could also be in the storyline. It could be like it's a temporal area where, you know, the old maps are coming back and, you know, we're getting different realms coming together. You know, all the storyline stuff. I'm not gonna try to go into a bunch of detail on how the Fortnite storyline is working right now, but it would make sense, and I think that would be really, really cool. And I want to hear your guys' thoughts. Would you like some of the old POIs to come back, or would you like just an entirely new map altogether? You guys know the deal. If you liked the video, please chuck a like on it, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I'll see you in the next one.